Hi, welcome back to the workshop for the final video of my Great Guitar Build Off 2021 series. There is another video that precedes this, which was the final video in terms of the competition, but there were a few of the final details of the build that I had to kind of rush through a little bit. So this is a very short video that just covers the final kind of assembly and finishing of the guitar. Okay, so I've left this top as long as I can really before rubbing it down if I'm going to hit the deadline. Realistically, it probably could have done with another at least 2 or 3 weeks to cure up properly, but it is quite warm at the moment, so it is relatively hard. So I think we're going to be okay, but I think there is the possibility that it'll shrink back some more once it has fully cured, but we'll just have to deal with that if it happens. Now this lacquer actually went on quite nice and flat, so there's not a lot of orange peel and imperfections to polish out of it. So I'm going to start this one with 800 grit. I would normally start kind of 600-ish grit. So hopefully this won't be a really long job. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to soak the paper in some warm soapy water, and I've got a little eraser that I'm going to use as a sanding block because it will deform a little bit to the top. I'm going to do the big flat areas with the block, but the rest of the carved areas I'll just do with my fingers so I won't burn through it. Okay, so I've had maybe half an hour, 40 minutes rubbing on this thing now, and I've got it down to a nice flat 1200 grit finish. So now I'm just simply going to get the mop on it with some buffing compound and bring the shine out. And to buff this out, I'm going to use my big power mop. This is just a single action buffer with a foam pad on. I've just washed the foam pad out and it's still quite wet. That's really important. And some water-based polishing compound. I'm also going to be using plenty of water just so that I don't risk burning through on some of these high spots on the carve of the guitar. So without further ado, we'll get on to it. Okay, so that's the top all polished up, looking lovely. Next job is to get the wiring sorted out. But before I make a start on that, I just want to do something with these pickup routes. I'm going to paint them with a bit of shielding paint, but that's not really about shielding the pickups. It's because I'm not using pickup rings on this guitar. I want to darken the inside of the pickup routes so it's less obvious that there's a gap around the pickup. So with all the pickup routes blacked out, time to get this wiring loom sorted out before we attempt to put it into the guitar. Very straightforward, 1 volume, 1 tone, 3-way toggle switch to the output jack. So I'm not really going to go into a great deal of detail with this. There's plenty of wiring diagrams available online to show you how to do this job. All right, let's get it cracked on. Okay, so with all the wiring sorted out, now comes the part I know quite a few people have been looking forward to, and this is me attempting to fish these controls into this body without the aid of an access panel. And to do this, I'm going to use a couple of things. I'm going to use some dental floss and just a tiny little screw. You probably can't see that, it's just a tiny little wood screw. There are other ways of doing this. I've seen people do it with surgical tubing, which they would kind of put over the end of the controls, and it grips quite well when you put tension on it, and they pull it through that way. But I'm not going to do it that way, A, because I haven't got any surgical tubing, and B, because the system I use has always worked for me. And all I'm simply going to do is I'm going to take the appropriate lengths of this floss, tie the screw on, just with a very simple knot, like that. Just drop that through the hole, give it a bit of a rattle about, and I'm just going to grab it with these forceps, get the screw off so it doesn't scratch anything. And then I'm just going to tape that to the body so it doesn't pull all the way through, and I'm also just going to put a little label on it that says S for switch. And then I'm just going to repeat that with all the controls until I've got a bit of floss to pull everything through. Okay, and with that done, it's now just a question of tying the relevant control onto the appropriate piece of dental floss and using it to pull it through. So I'm going to start with the output jack. Now you might notice on this wiring loom I've left a little bit more play between components than I need, and this is simply so I've got a bit of wriggle room when I'm pulling them through. Okay, let's start getting these through. So I'm just wiring the pickups here. It's very straightforward. All I'm doing is attaching the live from each pickup to the appropriate wire on the length of wire that attaches to the switch, and then just joining all the grounds together. The rest of the assembly is fairly straightforward. Just screw the pickups in. Knock the bushings in for the bridge and the tailpiece, and we're pretty much ready to go. Okay, there it is, it's all together. Was a little bit of a faff getting those controls in, but it wasn't that bad actually. Probably took about half an hour of fiddling around, but it's all good now, and I'm very happy with the way it's looking. I think now it's got the pickups and the bridge and the stop tailpiece on, it kind of completes the look of the guitar. So all that remains for me to do now is to get some strings on it. And as always, it's some Ernie Ball Hybrid Slinkies 9 to 46. So we'll get this strung up, give it a very quick setup, and be back with you in a little while. Okay, so to quickly go through the guitar, it's a through neck construction, maple centre section and neck. It's got mahogany rear wings and maple on the top. In terms of the hardware, it's a Goto tailpiece and bridge. It's CTS pots 500K for volume and tone, 3-way toggle switch, and the pickups are Tone Rider Birmingham pickups, which are their hot PAFs. Really happy with these pickups, very nice for the money. And at the headstock end, they're just some relatively kind of cheap generic locking tuners, but they do work very nicely. Truss rod cover, which is inlaid in rosewood, and that just simply pushes into place and then lifts up with a fingernail to be moved out of the way when you need to access the truss rod. And in terms of setting it up, it all went very easily actually. I just put the bridge right at the bottom of its setting, which is where it stayed, and that gave me kind of roughly where I needed to be in terms of action, but the neck relief was slightly out, so I adjusted the neck relief and that pulled the action down actually a little bit lower than I generally set it, but it wasn't buzzing or choking, so I just left it at that. The intonation was pretty good out of the box, so I've left that for the time being. It's easily close enough, and it's something that I can address when I've got a little bit more time. Other than that, it was just very straightforward. Okay, so there it is, another build series finished. This video is going to be going live about 5 hours before the end of the voting for the competition, so if you catch it in that time frame and you think I've deserved it, I'll leave a link in the description so you can drop me a vote. I would very much appreciate that. I have to say I've absolutely loved the Great Guitar Build Off 2021. It's been a lot of fun for me. It's been a lot of fun watching what the people are doing, and I've enjoyed my build immensely. So I'm really looking forward to next year's competition, and I'm just going to go away and start thinking about what I'm going to do for that. I'm going to be back very soon with the start of another build project, and it would be amazing to have you along for that journey. But until that point, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.